Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. We are on. It is the Gary Ayd Show, and I am pumped. I don't even think you have to ask why. Today is a great day. Today is a fabulous day. It's good to have rich uncles. Uncle Steve Cohen, 4 a.m, on vacation in Hawaii with a lei around his neck, sandals on his feet, gets a call from his BFF, Scott Boras, and be like, yo, Uncle Steve, help a brother out. We need 300+ million real quick over 12 years. San Francisco got cold feet. He was like, no problem. My feet are in the warm sand of Hawaii. I got you. Here's the check. Let's go. We'll have the press conference tomorrow. And just like that, the Mets have Carlos Correa. Boom. Oh, I love it. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning because one of my cats woke me up, and I made the mistake of looking at my phone, and I thought I was in dreamland still. I thought I was still sleeping and dreaming. I'm like, wait a minute. Carlos Correa's on the Mets. He signed with the Giants. I know they postponed his press conference. I figured it was just a day or two. Nope. Did the whole deal in. And just like that, the Mets have officially the most badass team on paper in Major League Baseball right now. Maybe only Philadelphia has as scary a lineup as them, which is crazy because they're in the same division. NL East is going to be fireworks this year. Braves, I think, took a step back. Losing Swanson really hurts them. I think they're the third best team in that division now. And I'll tell you what, the Mets have a lot riding on some 38+ starting pitchers, but both of them are of the ultimate pedigree in Verlander and Scherzer. So I'm not too worried about that. But right now, today, if you're a Met fan, this is like probably one of the coolest days of your life following the Mets anyway. As far as Mets news is concerned, this is as big of an extravaganza as you can imagine. I mean, is Correa the best player they've ever signed? Probably not. But, like, he's a great player. And the fact that this was done and then, boom, it wasn't. And it's the Mets who, in an instant, it's the way this happened. I mean, Cohen was on vacation in Hawaii. It's the middle of the night. And without thinking about it, he cuts a $300 million check to his buddy Scott Boras. We are baller status right now, Met fans. Let's brag. Let's rub it in. Whatever. We've never gotten to do this. Let's enjoy it because Uncle Steve don't give a damn. He's making it rain. He doesn't care how many grumpy owners don't like him. This is play money for him. His whole payroll, which is like $800 million or something that he's committed this offseason, something ridiculous like that, is still like 5% or less of his net worth. He doesn't care. He's a fan, and he's got money to burn, and he's burning it. And, oh, baby, are we lucky to have him. Most important day in Met history was the Wilpon selling to Cohen. And to think it almost didn't happen, you imagine how different it would be? Oh, what a pleasure. This is awesome. I am so pumped up. Toby can't even get near me. He's like, what is wrong with you today? I'm all excited, Toby. It's your fault. You're the one that woke me up in the middle of the night. That's why I knew about this at 4:30 in the morning. I'm jazzed up on coffee. I wanted to have this segment at 4:30 this morning, but I figured no one was awake except me. So me and Toby. But here we are. Mets, Carlos Correa. Let's go. I've been saying for how many years third baseman is what the Mets need. Good hitting third baseman. Well, now they got it. And this lineup is bonkers, baby. We got Nimmo, McNeil, Alonso, Correa, my favorite Lindor. Oh my goodness, up and down the lineup. You still got Marte and Canna. Oh, let's go. When's spring training? Let's do this. I can't wait.
Pitchers and catchers in about 5-6 weeks.
Let's go. Let's fast forward the clock. Let's get to the NFL playoffs. Christmas, and we'll play it out. We'll do it this way. We'll play it out to the string till Christmas. It's only a few days. Got to watch the NBA on Christmas. Then I want to see the NFL playoffs. And after that, we can just, from like the second week of February till pitchers and catchers, we can just forget about all that. Let's just get to baseball at that point. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Man, I have never seen you like this.
Oh, I've never been like this. This is great. Like,
now what? I feel bad. Now I feel bad for texting you at 1 in
the
morning. Oh. Waking up at 4:30.
Oh, well, it was Toby's fault. But man, I'll tell you what, you look at now getting off just the pure adulation of it all, like, and kind of putting on my analyst hat. I mean, objectively speaking, other than some concerns with age in the starting rotation, which when you're dealing with 40-year-olds or close to 40-year-olds, there's always the possibility that they just fall off the cliff. But these particular two are not likely candidates for that, I don't think. So
the pedigree's there.
they were both like brilliant last year. I mean, Verlander just won a Cy Young. So
Yeah.
I think this team right now on paper is no worse than the second best team in the National League. And I think they might be the best team in the National League. I think they might have surpassed the Dodgers. And I'll tell you this, the biggest thing I know is if there becomes an obvious weakness during the year, whether it's because of underperformance or injury, Cohen will not hesitate to address it.
No.
And as a Met fan, having that confidence is so foreign. It's awesome. And
no.
It's great.
Who has the better arm, Correa or
Lindor?
Or Lindor?
Well, I know it was reported that Lindor will remain at shortstop, so Correa is going to move to third.
Really? Okay.
I maybe one's better than the other. They're both excellent fielders. I don't think it really matters much, to be honest with you. I don't think of this. I know this is the easy comparison to make because it's the same city. I don't think of this as a Jeter A-Rod thing. Whereas A-Rod was clearly the better defender, but politics made Jeter stay at shortstop when it really should have been the other way around. I think this is tomato. I think both are elite defensive players, and it makes no difference. And they're both in their physical prime in their mid to late 20s. Yeah, I don't think it matters. I mean, you can move them around if you want to. You can play one way or the other. I don't care. Makes no difference. They're both great defensive players. And more importantly now, this lineup is stacked to the gills. I mean,
it's the power hitter you've been wanting at third base, too.
Oh, everything. Yep. I've been wanting this forever. So I can officially turn in my Chris Bryant campaigning card. That card has now been shredded. Oh, here it is right here. Bye-bye, Chris Bryant trading card.
Oh, he's going to make it rain with a trading card.
You have been replaced.
Oh, you'd have loved having Bryant. Don't even.
Oh, that would have been fine. Correa a lot more.
Well, yeah. Any idea what happened in San Francisco? Did something happen at the physical?
Yeah. So what I read was that they had an issue with the physical, specifically related to one of his injuries from last year, the back thing. And I even heard this, I wasn't able to verify, but I did hear that there was some dispute over who was going to pay for the physical, Correa or the Giants.
What? You're investing over $300 million?
I don't believe that part. That part I didn't verify.
No, and you're not arguing about the price of a physical. The HMO will get it.
Right, that doesn't make any sense. But I do know that it was because of an injury, previous injury. And that's why they postponed the press conference the other day. And I guess it went from seemingly just a speed bump to an impasse overnight. The deal fell apart, and Cohen, because him and Scott Boras are like really good buddies, they have like a great working relationship. Cohen got a call from Boras literally in the middle of the night as this was happening. And Cohen was
it was 6 hours earlier in Hawaii.
Right.
So he was
right. Well, it's
probably with a Mai Tai in his hand.
Right, exactly. Middle of the night for Boras, I guess midday, late in the day for Cohen. But anyway,
there is no middle of the night to Boras.
Yeah, he works all day. Yeah, but he gets that call, and I guess it was minutes that this deal went through. Like there was no negotiation. It was just like, yeah, okay, we'll do the same thing. Here you go. All right, great. So now, of course, he still has to go through the physical with the Mets, but I'm assuming that's a fait accompli after this. Oh, would I be mad if that wasn't the case?
Oh, I'd be concerned if that was the case, because that means there's something really wrong.
Well, not only that, but it would also mean that like you jumped the gun, because if the Giants had that concern and that's the reason the deal fell through, then you signed them immediately and then listed the same concern for not completing the contract. That would show a level of sloppiness that I don't envision the Mets right now having.
Yeah.
Now, that would have been something I would have expected from the Wilpons, but of course, the Wilpons would never in a million years be in on this guy.
They wouldn't even, consider the deal. Yeah, the only reason, because I was reading stuff this morning and I'm hearing things like, "Oh, the Giants got cold feet." No, this franchise does not get cold feet. They obviously have a concern.
Yeah.
Is it overblown? Who knows?
Well, and that's an interesting, to be pragmatic about it, that's a fair point. And I have seen some Met fans say things to the effect of, "Am I the only one who doesn't think this guy's worth these damaged goods?" And that very well might be true. But here's the thing. As a sports fan, the only reason to be concerned about in baseball, because there's no salary cap, this doesn't apply to the other sports, but in baseball anyway, the only reason to be concerned as a sports fan about your team's spending and signing a quote bad contract too long for an injury prone guy, the only reason is because you fear he's going to underperform and then you're going to be hamstrung and not able to sign guys you need to compete. This guy doesn't care. All three of these contracts, Correa, Lindor, and Verlander Nimmo could all blow up and he would go sign other people. This guy doesn't care. So we shouldn't care either. Is it a good contract? In a pure literal financial sense? Probably not. Is it a lot of risk with the injury? Yeah, clearly, because the Giants weren't willing to take it. But this guy doesn't care. He's worth like $70 billion or something ridiculous like that. He doesn't care. And he's a fan.
This is a drop in the bucket.
Oh, it's 5% of his worth.
This is like us throwing a homeless guy in the street a quarter.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's a dinner at Outback. It's nothing. It's nothing. He doesn't care, and more importantly, he doesn't care about the money because he has so much of it. But he cares deeply about putting a fun team on the field, a competitive team, and he cares deeply about the fans being excited about the team. And that is all you want. Because as long as this guy owns the team, I know for a damn fact the Mets are going to be relevant. And when they struggle, he's going to do something about it. And oh my God, what a fortunate thing. I mean, this is like a godsend. He went from the worst owner in sports maybe to the best, perhaps. I mean, really, it's like going from shopping at Aldi and Kmart and Walmart to now I'm shopping at Nordstrom and Armani. This is great. It's yeah. And I don't even have to use my own money. Oh, this is awesome.
The injury thing has to be a concern. I mean, I'm not trying to burst your bubble.
It's a concern with Correa. But the reason I'm not overly concerned about it in the big picture is because if it doesn't work out, I have confidence that Cohen and the team will find something to replace him. This contract, if it goes belly up, doesn't hamstring the team financially for 10 years. If I thought it would, I would be much more concerned, and I'd even be against the deal. But if it doesn't work out, he's going to treat it like the Yankees treated Kevin Brown back in the day. Oops, that sucked. Next. All right, where's Randy Johnson at? Oh, Roger Clemens, you're back? All right, good. He just give me the next man up.
Because there's no salary cap. If this were an NFL team,
totally different, right? Different.
I've seen in many cases NFL teams, one team doctor pass a guy when another team previously failed him.
Right. Well, and that's going to happen. I mean,
and I think that goes as much to my trust of NFL doctors as anything.
Well, I think in any line,
they take practicing medicine way too literally.
Different doctors will rule different things, but I mean, ultimately, because the Mets will not be hamstrung by this, even if the deal goes completely belly up.
Right.
If it becomes Jacoby Ellsbury on a grander scale, oh well, they'll go get someone else. So
someone else's aren't that easy to find though.
No, but they will. And whatever is available, they'll be in on is the bigger thing. Guys are always available. Someone's always available. You might have to wait into the off season. You might have to make a trade. But the point is, if you're willing to pay people, then there's guys to be had. And the Mets are willing to pay whatever's necessary. That's been made perfectly clear. And I love the grouchiness of there's a lot of like under the radar talk about how other owners aren't happy because Cohen is, spending all this money and he's driving up the luxury tax and everything else. And you know what? He's his own man and he doesn't care. And I love it. He's like, yeah.
Hey, if you can't play, if you can't run with the big dogs, back and sit on the porch with the puppies.
That's right. That's right.
Keep up or get out.
Yep, absolutely.
Plain and simple.
100%.
There are, as was proven by the Phoenix Suns sale, there are plenty of billionaires out there willing to buy and overpay for a product.
Oh, no question about it. And
Suns are not worth $4 billion.
No, not at all. It's pretty
and I don't
crazy.
care if you add the mercury 10 times. Someone really wants to be in that league.
Yep, absolutely.
And good. There's nothing with having owners that want to be there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, right now, I would say our two favorite teams, yours being the Clippers and mine being the Mets, have, I would say, the two best owners in all of pro sports. I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing that Ballmer won't do to try to make that team win. Nothing.
And if they have failed, it was not due to lack of trying.
It wasn't his fault. And that's how I feel about the Mets. Will they win the World Series? They have a good shot, but maybe they won't. But like, if they don't,
who thought at the beginning of the playoffs last year that Philly was going to win the World Series?
Right. It's true.
In a short series, anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
But they look as good as anyone in baseball.
Oh, my God. Philly's lineup is crazy, too, though, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
That is one scary lineup.
My only concern between the Mets, Philly, and Atlanta, and that's the way I'd have them ranked.
Yep.
Is that they wear themselves out beating up on each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. The good news is you get tempered in there with a couple of series against Washington and Miami too. So
right,
it's like going from the penthouse to AAA.
I mean, when Alcantara pitches, it is not AAA.
He's the one exception. I was just gonna say him. He's like the one exception. But if
the Nationals can't even spell their name right on one of their jerseys. So
right.
Yeah, we don't worry.
We're not worried about them. Man, what a great thing to wake up to this morning. Oh, I'm pumped. Let's get into more stuff. We got a break coming up. We got a lot to get to. We got the question of the day. Derrick Rose, maybe a little delusional. Knicks absolutely rolling. And of course, you have the Phoenix Suns sale, which you mentioned. We'll get into that in more depth. That's what's on tap the rest of the hour. Second hour, of course, top 5. You got the news you can use and everything else. So we'll be back. Next, we're going to touch on the Knicks. Knicks playing great. Rose maybe getting ahead of his britches. I'll explain on the other end. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right. So before we move over to the Knicks, as promised, one little thing I did want to throw out there. A gentleman who I trust immensely. He's as credible a reporter as there is, even though he's more of a scout. His name is Mark Welch, someone I follow closely on Facebook. And he actually is where I saw the news breaking about CORREA this morning. When I say this morning, I mean really this morning, like 4:30 in the morning this morning. But he is now saying that there is whispers and discussion, Rich, and we'll never know for sure. But there is talk that the whole physical failing thing was not really the reason, that this was a perhaps case of the Giants getting some kind of cold feet, or maybe the contract was never fully consummated and Cohen swooped in at the last second and upended this. There's basically a lot of rumors here. And we're going to never probably know the end of it, but I'm just going to read this right now. It's being reported by some, even reporters in San Francisco, that there were no issues with Correa's medicals nor with his physical. And then adding sort of his own take. This is again Mark Welch. The swiftness with which Correa uncoupled himself from the Giants calls into question the entire question of the wonky physical story. Frankly, it feels like the malady in question is actually frostbite of the feet, as either the Giants got skittish about an impulse buy or Correa got a last-second offer from Steve Cohen. Either way, we won't ever know, but there is enough noise out there to suggest there's a reasonable chance Correa is perfectly fine physically, which I guess I don't care. I mean, if he's perfectly fine physically, even better. Like he's ours now, so what do I care?
Oh, absolutely. But to me, though, noise is just that, noise.
Yeah, but
without verification, noise is nothing.
But sometimes smoke, can mean fire. And it does seem, and just using logic here, if I was prepared to put 300 something million into a player, if his physical wasn't perfect, okay, so, well, what is it? If it's not like your back's broken, if it's not David Wright, okay, we got 2.5 months before pitchers and catchers report, 3 months before you have to do anything. Like, it seems an overreaction to all but like a calamity style injury. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Just from a logical standpoint. It never really did. And like I said, I don't really care.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me. But
see, the whole thing to me, I hear a lot of noise out there too.
Yeah, but
that's basically just what it is to me, because anything without verification is noise.
But even ignoring the noise.
But how about waiting and seeing?
Oh.
You don't have to be the first on a story. You just gotta know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but even ignoring the noise, who cares? Logically speaking, it seems like an overreaction for the Giants to flip on such a major decision over, something's not quite physically right with them yet. I mean, because if it was like a major, potentially career-threatening injury, we would have known about it long ago. That would have been a story throughout the season.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It could also be something where they're looking at it and thinking, in 3 years, this could all go to hell.
Right. Which would...
And the Mets, we don't want to do 12 years. And the Mets are just saying, well...
We will.
Let's win 3 titles in 3 years and worry about the rest then.
That's right. Right. And that's kind of speaks to what Mark was saying. Either way, interesting, amazing development. And it's a good day to be a Met fan, no matter how you slice it.
Oh, it is. It is.
It's a good day to be a Met fan. All right. So with that said, we'll put the Mets on the back burner for a second, although it's still going to be burning because a story like this doesn't just go out. But we do have
No,
other things.
I think you'll hear a lot more coming out
I
of it.
think so. So we
But
got.
I'm going to be very selective on who I hear it from.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just excited. We're gonna have a lot more to get to today, though. So let's dive into the Knicks. So the Knicks are on an NBA best 8-game winning streak. Absolutely bludgeoned the Warriors last night, playing
By
without Curry.
38
Oh,
points.
beatdown style. I'll tell you something. He probably, well, definitely isn't a number one, maybe not even a number two on a championship team, but Julius Randle is a beast. That guy is a physical specimen. He made one layup in this game where he like dove to the rim in short distance. I mean, I don't even think he was at the free throw line when he began his dive. He caught a bullet chest pass from Brunson, I believe it was, who was under duress. Got absolutely slammed by I think it was either Wiseman or one of the other bigs for Golden State. Someone really bodied him in the middle of the air. He like double clutched with his left hand, single hand on the ball, slammed it off the backboard and in. Like that, it was just such an impressive finish. And that just takes such incredible strength and body control. Julius Randle is an athletic marvel. I've always said that.
He is. And I have never seen him as a number one, nor
He's not,
will I.
but he's a great player to watch. He's awesome.
But he's a great piece to have on a good team.
God, yeah, he is. And on any given night,
don't think for a minute the Lakers couldn't use him right now.
Oh, I would love to have Julius Randle. I wasn't happy when they traded him. I mean, I understood.
Oh, I remember.
But like,
I remember.
Of all those Lakers, even Ingram, I figure would be the more consistent scorer, but his frail body type concerns me, and we're seeing it. He's injured a lot.
He's injured again.
Randall's a hardy, rough and ready. He's not going to miss games. I mean, how are you going to hurt that guy? Look at him. Not going to hurt that guy. He's going to hurt you.
You know how I felt about him.
Yep. Great talent.
Wonderful scorer.
Yes. That's all you got.
If he could make more of a Durant type move in his game.
Yep.
There's a lot he can do, but one rebound doesn't impress me.
Nope. And his concern with injuries. Randall's just a solid rock. Like the guy, like of all those Lakers, him and Kuzma were the two I really wanted to keep. Caruso in there too. But anyway, the Knicks played great last night. Randall was a big part of it. Of course, Brunson continues to play great. One guy who's not playing great, not playing period, is Derrick Rose.
Before we get into him,
yes,
give a shout out to Emmanuel quickly. 22 points in 20 minutes.
Yep. Good job.
He's involved in a lot of trade talks, and I've been very leery about it. And I don't think I would do it. I really don't. That's a hell of a sixth man to have.
Yeah. Well,
he's instant offense when he gets minutes.
Yeah, and I guess if you're not gonna play Rose, then yeah, you keep one of them for sure.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you'll get more for Quickly, a lot more, obviously. But you also decide, well, do we want to just have the better, more productive player right now? And that's the decision you're going to make. It doesn't make sense to keep all three of them long term.
Well, you're a playoff team, so why would you get rid of the more productive?
I agree. No, I agree.
It's not like you're tanking.
No, I agree. So you move Rose. Because
package him with Reddish.
Right, because it doesn't make sense to keep Rose, Quigley, and Brunson. It just doesn't. You can't play two of them together effectively. I mean, basically, Quigley is more or less playing the minutes that Brunson doesn't play.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. That's what you should do.
And he plays some for Grimes, too.
Right, you're a little
Not
bit.
a lot.
Not a lot. It's hard to have that backcourt of Brunson and Quigley in there at the same time defensively for long stretches. It just is.
But if you do use them in that way, maybe one getting 28 minutes, the other one getting 20.
Right.
You've got 48 minutes of offense.
Exactly. No, I agree. It makes sense.
And why even just leave that alone?
Right. And I'll tell you one other thing. I know he's been injured and you don't like to have a guy lose his job because of an injury, but with the emergence of Grimes, I don't know that I really need Obi Toppin when he comes back. I might be looking to see what his trade value is too. I have 3 pieces I'm looking to move from the Knicks. Well, 4.
Grimes is a guard, though.
He is. He is.
I think Toppin gives you front court depth.
But he's a small front court. He's like 6'7" or something. Like
No, he's like 6'9".
Is
He's
he?
legit,
He
he's
plays
legit
so
6'8.5" at
he
least.
plays so small.
Plays above the rim a lot.
Yeah, with dunks, but I'm talking like as far as rebounding and interior defense. Like I just don't see him as a front court guy. I guess he is, but like when I watch him play,
Well, yeah, he has no backcourt.
I see a small forward. Like I see like basically, I see a small forward. That's what I see. I see Evan Fournier without the shooting. But that was what I was going to say. I would move 2 of those 4. Fournier, Toppin, Rose, and Reddish. I would move 2 of those 4. Whichever 2 I can get the most value for in the package. I don't care which 4 of those I move. I would move 2 of those 4. I agree with you completely on Quigley. Now that we're a competitive team, I want to keep the better player. And he's the guy. So I think he's off the market for me. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was looking to move him because it looked like they were heading down Schitt's Creek again, but they've righted the ship, and I want the better players. So
eight games later,
that's it. And
they're
more,
what? What are they? 5th in the conference
now?
Yep,
5th or 6th. And more importantly, they look competitive on defense, which they weren't for the first half of the year. So very, very exciting stuff. Getting to Derrick Rose for a second. Maybe he's thinking about what's next in his career after his playing career is winding down. And he was asked recently, I think more or less that question. And he said he was interested in ownership. And okay, so you're going to be Dwayne Wade, a minority owner in the team. And I mean that in a financial stake. I don't mean, skin color. I mean financial stake. You're a minority owner of the team, and it's basically an expensive stock. Dwayne Wade has no say-so really beyond his personal influence in Utah. He has no voting rights. Most teams only have one voting owner, the majority owner.
Right.
A lot of teams are owned by one person purely. Some teams have a couple owners.
Not many anymore.
There's not a lot.
There's always about 20% of something floating around for the most part.
But all of that 20% might be floating around among 12 people.
Right.
And the highest one owns 2%. Or 4%. So my point is, as a minority owner, you really are nothing more than a stockholder, really, in terms of practical influence. And so I posted this on a Facebook thread, and people went nuts. They're like, have you seen his personal savings? You're an accountant. What do you know? Like, well, I know this. So I broke it down because I like rubbing it in the face of these kind of idiots. So I said, okay, well, it's public knowledge what Derrick Rose has earned over his career in NBA now, in NBA salary. You can look it up. I did. He's earned about $170 million. Let's pretend for a minute he earned 10 times that in endorsements, which I doubt is true. It's probably more like maybe 2 times that in endorsements.
At the most. He didn't get a lot of endorsements.
He didn't. So,
and he was an MVP that didn't get a lot of endorsements.
So let's pretend he earned another $500 million in endorsements, which I doubt he did. He still only got gross career earnings of $700 million. The cheapest NBA franchise, the Pelicans, are worth $1.8 billion. So he would need to have saved 10 times what he's earned in his career. Newsflash, you can't save what you never earned.
And of course, no one saves all their money. I mean, you have to live.
Well, you have to live. You have to pay taxes and agents and stuff. But like, even if he saved every dollar in some fantasy world, he would still be 10 times less what he needs to be at. You're not going to borrow 10 times what you have without the person furnishing that loan taking the controlling interest. Hello. So what do you have? I mean, a minority owner, which is basically owning a stock. And oh my God, people are funny, man. It's so funny. I mean, if Rose wants to go down that road, good for him. I think he's a little light financially to pull that off. I think that realistically, to have any kind of minority stake in a team that's even worth anything, forget voting rights, even just financially intelligent to own, he would need to invest such a huge percentage of his net worth, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when guys like who are real players in buying teams, like even someone on the low end, like take Michael Jordan. who would probably be the least wealthy NBA owner. He's worth, 1 point something billion, or
he's worth more.
maybe
I
it's
mean,
two-
you consider what he 10 times more than what he played from Nike alone.
Oh, no question. But he's worth somewhere in the low billions.
Yeah, but he got a team cheap.
He got a team really cheap. And
remember, those franchises back then, the least successful, were going for 500 mil.
See, I was right. According to Forbes, Jordan's net worth in 2022 is 1.7 billion. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I was pretty close at 1.5. So he would be probably the least net worth owner in the NBA.
Yes.
And it took him, even when he got a team for cheap at whatever it was, 600 million or whatever he bought it for.
I think it was less.
It might, even if it was 500 million.
Yeah, it was closer to that.
It was still at the time close to half his net worth to do that.
Yeah.
So the guys that play in this sandbox, they have B's after their net worth and big numbers in front of those B's.
Oh, yeah.
Like, LeBron might have a shot at it because he's a billionaire now.
Yeah, but
even LeBron's not going to be able to pull this off.
He's going to need partners.
He's going to need partners. A-Rod kind of sort of pulled it off with Minnesota, but needed partners, and he's not the majority owner.
Right.
And that's the point I was making is
See, I think LeBron could be a majority owner.
He might
franchise.
He might be. And it might be 8 years after he retires.
And especially if it's a newer franchise like in Vegas.
An expansion team that maybe is only worth $1 billion or 1 point something, like instead of,
Yeah.
Like, it takes a lot of money. So even if you're going to own 5% of a team or 3%, you're still talking $300, $400 million, $200 million.
Yeah.
And if you've only earned 170 million in earnings, and then you add in your endorsements, it's going to be 40, 50% or more of your net worth for basically a single stock. You would never, if you go to Edward Jones, they would never tell you, hey, put 50% of your net worth into this one stock. They would never say that. And if they did, you would run for the hills.
Well, you would hope so. Anyway. If anyone, I think LeBron could pull it off.
He's the one guy that could be in position to do it.
Because he is in the Jordan class where he will continue to earn money 20, 30 years after he's done playing.
That's right. And
because his agreement with Nike is lucrative like Jordan's is.
Yes. And he's been smart with his money. He's never been known as a spendthrift. And he's very involved in a lot of different business ventures and has been successful with a lot of them. So, yeah, he's like the one guy.
Look at the way Blaze Pizza's taking off.
Beats by Dre is another one. He was an early investor in that. He cashed out big on that one.
He did.
And the other thing that plays into this, of course, is politics, right? Like, and I don't mean like left or right. I mean, like, what does the NBA view as who, like, they have their choice in people to own these teams. I mean, there's no shortage of wealthy people that want in on this kind of thing. So does the name Derrick Rose or LeBron James help the NBA more? No offense to Rose, but he doesn't win that argument.
Right.
So,
I mean, LeBron's never been.
Right. That's why Jordan got the team, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there were more qualified financial owners, but it just helped the NBA for Michael Jordan to own a team, let alone the team in his home area of Charlotte. I mean, it just made sense. You think if Dan Gilbert goes to sell the Cavaliers, if LeBron's even close to financially capable, the NBA wouldn't push for that? Of course they would, and they should.
Oh, yeah.
It's good for business.
First, the league wants more minority owners.
Yep, we know that. That's where the real politics come into play, correct?
And that's understandable, considering the makeup of the league.
Right, yep.
And they shouldn't limit that to just ownership. I don't think that should matter as much as who GMs are, who's the president of a franchise, who's running the teams. I think that's where the inroads need to be made to make sure there's representation. But, yeah, Jordan wasn't the most viable owner, but he was the best for the NBA. And Jordan had red flags.
Yep.
And everyone knew what they were. LeBron has none of those.
No. No, LeBron is he's as big a name in the NBA as there ever has been.
Yeah.
And in terms of marketability and commercial impact, I mean, there was a study done when he left Cleveland the first time, something like 1.5% of the state's economy contracted. I mean, think about
Yeah.
that. Like, he has implications on the state economy, measurable implications on the state economy. Derrick Rose don't got that.
No.
No one else does, actually.
And I give the Cavs credit because some of that's coming back.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they've
Yeah,
Cleveland is a place to be again.
it is. Well, they've done a great job, and they've built a really sustainable organization and franchise, and they're playing great. I mean, they have 21 wins or something like that right now.
They are playing very well.
Yep. So there you go.
But LeBron has come out and said if there's an expansion team in Vegas, and there's probably no reason there shouldn't be. He wants
in.
part of that. Yeah.
It makes sense. It really does. I mean,
it absolutely does.
And I think he'll be in a position where he'll be able to pull that off financially.
I do too.
Because even if he has to spend a lot of his net worth, he has a large enough net worth and a big enough name that even if he has to borrow heavily to do it, because he probably would, he would be able to borrow and leverage that enough to still be the majority owner, I think, because he's close enough.
He brings Rich Paul in with him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'd have partners, but he could be the deciding partner.
Right, but he would have
people
partners around him that he trusts.
Yeah, he would have partners, probably two.
I think there would be no problem with that at all.
I agree.
My only concern about with an expansion team in Vegas, and that's not happening anytime soon, according to the commissioner, is that they want the other one in Mexico City.
I've heard Seattle.
Mexico City makes a lot of sense. There's 30 million people there. It makes a lot of sense, and merch sales in Mexico are off the charts. It makes so much sense, but I feel for the people of Seattle.
Yeah, they got bamboozled. I would think the NBA would try to right that wrong. I know they've talked about it in the past, so I mean, even Silver
Stern talked about it more than Silver.
Yeah, well, because it was his mistake.
Right.
Silver doesn't maybe feel ownership to that mistake, which is understandable because it wasn't under his commissionership.
Right, it wasn't his mistake.
Right. So,
but if it goes Mexico City, and like I said, I see no financial reason why it shouldn't. Right.
Well, I mean, and Mexico City is what, Central Time Zone, or is it even Eastern? Like it's a
Central.
It is Central, yeah. So it's a standard time zone.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt anything at all.
That's not a logistic problem the way like the NFL's wet dream of Europe is, for example, like we've talked about before. There's no logistic challenges to this at all.
Right. I mean, and there's a reason the NBA would never consider Europe. I mean, the leagues over there are pretty self-sufficient.
Right.
And the talent and the competition is good.
Well, it's a different dynamic altogether. Football more or less doesn't exist outside the NFL in terms of a major professional league in the world. Whereas basketball, there's a lot of them, like you just said.
Right. And the NFL is now looking more to Germany than even England.
I think that makes a lot more sense. It's a bigger country in terms of landmass.
The market's there.
The market's there.
Market is really there. I just feel it's going to be a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it will be. There's no question it will be.
Unless you put 4 teams there.
You're going to have to put a division there. I agree.
And anyone outside of those divisions playing them
gets a bye the week after.
Goes and plays 3 of the 4. Yep. Does it in 3 consecutive weeks.
Yep, and then gets a bye.
And then comes home and gets a bye. Yeah.
That's the way you'd have to do it. And you would probably try to stack that schedule where it was mostly East Coast teams. Although I guess if you do it that way, it wouldn't matter so much if a West Coast team made one crazy flight and was there for a month.
Yeah.
That's not
that would be the whole thing. Yeah. I don't know.
I guess there's ways to do it. It would be tricky, but you could pull it off.
What would the Players Association say about that? Oh, we're going to pull you away from your families for a month. Some guys might like it. But,
it depends on what your family situation is, I guess.
Yeah.
But I can
see a lot of players being upset with it.
I would think part of that negotiation, which I think the NFL would probably readily agree to, would be the ability for the families to fly over and have accommodations during those trips. Like immediate family, I'm talking about kids, wives, maybe parents.
How do you pull your kids out of school?
I mean, they did remote learning for 2 years, so they can do it for 1 month. I mean, that was the world standard for 2 years. There's no reason you couldn't make those accommodations also for 1 month.
You could. I just don't think it's in the best interest.
Well, that would be up to the parents to decide.
Right.
And ultimately, if the league agreed to furnish those accommodations, if some parents, would say, hey, if I'm a free agent, I don't want to sign with one of those teams because I don't want to do that. And that's perfectly understandable. Others would be like, hey, it's fine. My kid will get a yearly trip to Europe. They're going to love it. And they'll learn on Skype. That's fine too. So that's a decision. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that one. That's,
right.
That's a
that's
choice.
a personal family decision.
Yep, absolutely. So
it's just, there would have to be
you'd have to do some
sacrifices made because
no doubt
it's
about
not
it.
fair.
No question about it. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish out the hour with the question of the day. Then we'll get into hour number 2, top 5. First hour flew by, obviously. We'll be back after this, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Los Angeles Football Club is out for blood. Well, maybe not blood, but definitely DNA. I am KO. Back in a minute with your sports question of the day.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, you may qualify for a free continuous glucose monitor system. The new CGM systems can automatically manage your diabetes better for you. And by using a CGM system, you can eliminate forever one thing most people with diabetes hate the most: finger sticks. End the painful finger sticks and get a new CGM monitoring system at little or no cost to you. We even provide in-home delivery and do all the insurance paperwork for you. Now is the best time to manage your diabetes better and get your continuous glucose monitor. Call now for details. Call 800-438-1391. That's 800-438-1391. Paid for by U.S. Med.
LAFC will be using genetic testing software to analyze athletes' genetic data for the purposes of training and injury prevention. The Major League Soccer club has partnered with genetics testing company 3x4 Genetics, which built its new GeneFit software specifically for elite sports organizations. GeneFit tests for gene insights on metabolism, inflammation, detoxification, fitness, weight, hormones, cognition, and responses to certain foods or supplements. Question for parents: would you or would you not do genetic testing on your kids to improve their trainability and help them prevent injuries?
Yeah, we had this one already.
Something very similar.
Yeah, very similar. It's the same question.
And
so
my answer's the same.
Yeah, all right.
If my kid's not an elite athlete, no.
Yeah, I'm not doing that even if my kid is an elite athlete, I don't think. That's just a little too intrusive to me. But that's my take.
It would have to be something that I would have to understand where the data is and where it's going. And the chances of that are slim to none.
I'm sure you probably had this in news you can use, but since we're not really going to dive too much into this question today, since we already more or less answered it, I figure we can carve out 5 minutes to talk specifically about Franco Harris, who passed away at the age of 72, the great Steeler running back.
Actually, that's what my top 5 is based on. So
okay,
perfect.
All right,
let's lead into it.
Let's do it.
Class act.
Yep. One of the best.
I was at an exhibition table at a show he was at, and what a great gentleman. Man took time for everyone. Just an amazing football player.
Yeah.
I still question the immaculate reception, because at that time it couldn't bounce from one offensive player to another's hands. But then again, it would have taken 20 cameras to actually prove it. But everything he did on and off the field just exuded class. And shame on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been putting off his number retirement.
Yeah,
And now,
now
he won't be here to see it. And I think that sucks.
I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And, whenever I see these guys who are long in the tooth, well past their playing days, decades past their playing days, who are on the surface irrefutably worthy of honors like that, whether it's the Hall of Fame or the team retiring their jersey, whatever the case is, and it hasn't happened. It always makes me just wonder, like, how and why. Like, another recent example of that was like the Mets building a statue for Tom Seaver. He was technically alive for it, but he was incapacitated by the time it happened. And it happened so many decades after. Like, why did it take that long? It doesn't make any sense. There was no decision. It wasn't a question of if he's worthy. For God's sakes, his name is the franchise. Like, that wasn't a question. And like, so what happened? Why did it take so long? Like, why did Elgin Baylor barely live to see his statue built? Now, he did, thankfully, and he was with it and strong enough, and he got to enjoy the day, which is great. But, like, why did things like that? We're not talking about guys that, like, okay, we're maybe a middle-of-the-road franchise, and we're kind of down in the dumps. We need some kind of quick pick-me-up PR stunt to, like, get a quick little surge of interest. Okay, let's retire a jersey of a guy who was pretty good but not great. We're talking about franchise icons here.
Right.
I mean, like,
and he played his entire career, save 1 year there.
Right.
I mean, come on, he is a Pittsburgh Steeler.
And he's contemporarily known because of the Immaculate Reception. Everyone knows who he is, even younger people. And like, maybe he's not an NFL Hall of Famer. I think he actually is, but like, you could maybe make a case that that's a fringe vote, but there's no question he's one of the all-time greats who played for Pittsburgh. So why this take so long? Like, just to retire his jersey? How? Like, when I read that this morning, when I saw he died, and they said that he had the plans to retire his jersey in like a month or something. Like, what? His jersey wasn't retired in like 1985?
I know.
What? I was shocked. I was like, how? How did that even happen?
And considering, athletes in general, but especially football players, the life expectancy is not the average American's life expectancy. And do these things before it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, like, what took so long?
I've seen it happen in other halls of fame, sports and music. I was talking to someone who led a band. I'm not going to mention the band's name because I don't think he'd appreciate it. But the band finally got in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I had a chance to talk to the leader of the band, who was not the lead singer. And I said, it's a shame that he was not around to see this. Well, we got the announcement before he died. I said, yeah, but he was incapacitated. Mm-hmm. I said, and your heyday was many years ago when they waited far too long to put you in.
Yep.
And he said to me, that's politics. And it is, but it doesn't make it right.
You know, and if it's something that really is obvious, like Franco Harris's jersey being retired by the Steelers, is just so obvious. There's just no reason, and that probably wasn't politics because that organization loves him and he loves them. Like that, like what could have caused that is I just don't know. They just never got around to it. They
putting it off.
Like for decades. That is crazy.
Oh, there's no excuse for it.
I understand waiting maybe a couple of years, it
should have been done by the 90s
at the latest. I agree. Yes, 100%. You let a new generation maybe be reintroduced to a guy after he's been out of the league 10, 15 years. You get a chance to kind of build up that nostalgia, that whimsifulness that is so key to our love affair of sports history. Like, so yeah, you need time for that stuff to marinate. It's like a slow cooker. But at some point, even the slow cooker, it burns and goes bad if you don't, take it out of the oven at some point.
Right.
And this is a case of that.
And there was no reason at all to not put Franco Harris there.
No, I mean, it doesn't. Well, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think there was ever a debate as to whether they were going to do it or put him in or retire his jersey. Just somehow, some way, all these decades, he never actually did it. And that's just nuts to me. I was shocked to learn that. Like I said, I was surprised. Like, wait,
Yeah.
what? Retire his
Oh, I
jersey
know. It's
again?
ridiculous.
Like, it's
I mean,
like
Franco's Italian army. Come on.
I right. I thought they
Frank
were.
Sinatra was a part of that. There's a history.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, I thought they were gonna renew their wedding vows or something. They were retiring the jersey for the second time. Wait, this never happened already? It's not renewing the nuptials? What's going on?
It's inexcusable.
It's crazy.
Especially for a franchise like that, which recognizes its history.
Yes. Yeah.
But then again, on another course, but on the same thing, it drives me nuts when I hear people here. Oh, we got to take O.J. Simpson's name off the wall. Why?
Why?
Did he do something while he was here that was not worthy of him being on that wall? He's a football player. He's not a role model.
Yep. Just ask Charles Barkley. He'll tell you that.
That's right. Nor should they be looked at that way.
Absolutely. I've always agreed with Barkley there. All right.
And no, his name should never be taken off the wall.
Absolutely not. All-time great player. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do the top 5. Got a lot more to get to, including Reggie Bush going on a rant, kicking Mark Emmert on the way out the door. Sour grapes, or does Reggie have a point? We'll discuss that as well. Next up, though, the top 5. Back after this, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Hour 2 of the Gary Ayd Show here on the Cave. CaveTalkRadio.com, and of course the Cave Talk Radio app, YouTube and Facebook Live. Great to have you aboard. More reaction continues to trickle in on social media regarding the CORREA signing. There are more people here, Rich, on the pessimistic side of the Mets aisle than I expected. A lot of people are saying they'll live to regret this contract. They're constantly injured. Got to be issues. And I get it, but again, I'll say what I said at the top of the show. If you don't fear the team's ability to outspend their mistakes, there's no reason as a fan to worry about whether the contract's going to be good or not. If you believe the team is capable of outspending its mistakes and fixing things on the fly when something goes bust, then who cares? And clearly that is the case with the Mets now. And so, again, I say who cares? If it's a bad contract, so it's a bad contract. But you know what? I don't even think that that's a fait accompli. This guy's 28 years old. It's a 12-year contract. It takes him to year 40. But, like, if you get 8 prime years out of him, out of 12, or even 9, that's not a bad contract, especially if you do some winning in there. Like,
not at all.
So what? Like, that's what it takes to get these guys. Like,
I don't see it as the worst thing ever, like some people do. I mean,
I don't either. I get tired of this every year. It's like every year it's a question of, well, what about this contract? What about that contract? It's the same tired arguments every time. It's like, okay, yeah, the 10-year contracts, the 12-year contracts, they're not good contracts. They're too out far in the future, blah, blah, blah. They never work out. You always get the data analytics guys that break down each one of these and say how bad it was and whatever. But you know what? They constantly do them. Why? Because that's what the best players want. That's what they command. And teams want the best players.
Right.
So, like, put a sock in it. Like, spare me your Poindexter comments on this one.
I wouldn't blame any team for making the move. I really would. And like I said, if the injury is something that, in 4 or 5 years can really have an effect, well, get the best 4 or 5 years you can out of the guy.
That's it. And, it's foolhardy to think teams don't have insurance on these contracts and they get they get that money back if there's something that prevents, like, I'm sure the Mets got paid back on David Wright's contract for that reason, as an example. So let's stop trying to be like fiscal, like, responsible here. Like, it's not our money. The guy whose money it is has so much of it, he couldn't care less. Let's enjoy it. Like, we're getting the best players. That's the thing I never understood. When you're a fan of a team and your team is the team that's going out and buying all the best guys, you're going to complain about that because, we're spending too much money. Get a life. What is wrong with you?
Especially a baseball team where there's not a salary cap. Yes, there's a luxury tax, but if you're a billionaire, who cares about luxury tax? Yeah.
You get some. I don't care. I got $70 billion. What do I care if it's $800 million?
Right. If I got all those billions and the Royals need some luxury tax money, here you go,
Kansas City. Send me some barbecue as compensation. That's
right.
Please. Portland, I don't really want anything from you, but you can you don't have a baseball team, so I don't need to worry about you. Okay, good. Oh man. One other thing I did see about this that's interesting, because I was actually thinking this. I wonder, in his heart of hearts and when he's at home at night lying in bed, what is Jacob deGrom really thinking right now? He's got to be thinking, shit. He's got to be, right? Like, there's just no way he's not having some second thoughts. What did I do?
I would think so.
The Rangers?
I would think so.
What? They've been good, like, for 4 years in the last 30. They were all together. They were good from, like, 2008 to, like, 2011. He's got to be thinking that, right? He has to be. Oh, well.
Unless the financial security meant that much to him.
But you don't think, given what we've seen, you don't think the Mets offered the same thing?
No.
I don't.
Okay. I really don't.
Okay.
Either they didn't offer it, because I think he would have stayed if they would have offered it. Either they didn't offer it or he didn't give them the chance to. It's got to be one of those two things.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the Mets, I think it's the second one. I think he didn't give them a chance to. He was committed to going to Texas from the beginning. And I think had the Mets been given the chance, they probably would have matched that deal or come close to it. But he didn't want to be there, which, okay, whatever, fine. Go.
Think about it from his perspective. There's a lot less pressure on him in Texas.
Oh, there's none. Right. Of course.
Than there is in New York, first of all. And with the Mets, considering how much they've paid him over the years and how little they've received in the last few years.
Yep. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I understand it on both sides, but it is pretty ironic that one of the big problems for Jake over the years was the lack of run support. Now the Mets have maybe the best lineup in Major League Baseball, and he's going to a team that probably can't score any runs. So he's going,
and they wouldn't hit on days he was pitching.
Right. Probably, exactly.
I mean, but there's room for everybody now. I mean, Noah Syndergaard signed again with someone.
Yep. All right, what do we got for our top 5 today?
Again, changed it up after hearing the news. Thinking of Franco Harris. A lot of people wouldn't know him today. You don't see him on a lot of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you go to trade shows, his name's never out there. Give me your top 5 running backs that were great, but most people don't talk about them today.
That's a good one. There's a good number of these guys. I'll give you one, and it's surprising because he's a very flamboyant runner, an outspoken person, but really you don't hear a lot about him. And that's Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson was a monster.
Yeah, he was.
And a very flashy runner and a flamboyant personality. A lot of personality.
Great with the media.
Yeah, but you don't hear about him.
No, not at all.
That one is probably the top of my list because it's always confused me. Because the few times I've seen him talk, guy's like a lightning rod. He's charismatic. He jumps off the TV screen. Like, why has this guy not been a broadcaster for the last 30 years?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
It just boggles my mind. So he's definitely the top of my list. He's the first name that comes to mind.
It's hard with broadcasters because they love going with mediocre quarterbacks who just sound terrible. And there's a plethora of them
you're not
out there.
talking about Chris Sims, are you? Or Tim Hasselbeck? No. You're not? Oh, because I was.
No, they weren't good enough to be mediocre.
Oh, okay. That's funny. Anyway, let's see who else do we got here. I mean, Franco Harris does come to mind. There are some guys who played like so long ago that people don't know them anymore. Like I heard John Madden one time give an interview that his childhood hero was Hugh McElhaney, who played in the 40s and into the 50s. Lived a very long life. I think he died in like 2015 or something. He lived to be like 90 something, I think.
Yes, which is rare for an NFL player.
So that was one of them. That's a guy that comes to mind. More recent people, by his own design, Barry Sanders, but people still know him because of just how great he was. And he's recent enough that he still knows. He doesn't really fit this list, the spirit of it, but it's for no lack of trying on his part. He's definitely the Tim Duncan of the NFL.
Yes, in fact, he made my list.
Yeah. But I think he's still too well known, despite his own best efforts, not to be. So I'm going to keep him off my list. But
okay,
but
that's a good point.
I wanted to mention him, but tried to think of some others. A guy that I always thought was really awesome, that really never gets talked about. Even when he was playing, he barely got talked about. That's Curtis Martin. Curtis Martin was great.
Another very quiet guy.
Yep. Curtis Martin. I'm going to put him there. Thinking of some others.
I have someone else from that era, but that's good. That's really good.
Marshall Faulk, maybe?
No,
No, okay.
no,
Yeah.
but I thought about him.
Yeah, because he's on NFL Network and stuff. I think he's still kind of
You,
around a
s-
little
yeah,
bit.
you still see him.
Yeah, yeah. Who was the guy from that era you had? I just took the one guess.
Larry Centers.
Oh, the fullback for Buffalo. Sure, that's a good one.
For everybody, played with the Cardinals
Yep.
for years. I've heard him, and I've heard him talk to Gabe. And like I said, get rid of some of these stupid quarterbacks and give me someone who's, one, articulate, and two, actually knows the game of football and isn't a youngster.
I'll tell you one guy that's gonna be on this list. He's too recently retired, I think, to qualify, but I'm gonna call this a futures pick, and I'm gonna put him on my list anyway. Frank Gore. No question about it. He's gonna fade into oblivion. He was barely recognized for the great back he was all these years.
All those years.
And he's gonna fade into oblivion. And then there's gonna be some like statster 15 years from now. It's gonna look up and be like, who's this Frank Gore guy with all these yards? Why have I never heard of him?
And why is this jersey not
Right,
retired?
right. That's absolutely going to happen 12,
Or are
15
they
years
gonna
from
wait
now.
too long?
Yeah, right. So Frank Gore is definitely going to be on my list for this one.
I fully agree with that.
I mean, he's going to be second all time. I think he is right now in total yards, right? In rushing yards. I mean, second all time.
We had him here at the end for his last couple of years. And the ability wasn't what it was, but man, what a class act.
Yeah, he's third all time. He came up just shy of Walter Payton.
What a class act.
16,000 yards on the nose rushing for Frank Gore in his career. 16,000. And he was never a breakaway back. Those 16,000 were gained 4 to 6 yards at a time.
Yep, they were hard-earned yards.
That's a lot of
Much
yards.
respect for Frank.
Yep. Funny enough, the top three are more or less that style. Peyton, a little bit more breakaway speed than Gore. And of course, the top slot, Emmitt Smith. But Emmitt Smith was, he would break a 20-yarder here or there, but he didn't get a lot of 50 and 70-yard sprints the way Sanders and Dickerson
and
other
I'm
guys
surprised
like that
he didn't, because when I heard, Emmitt Smith had all these yards per carry, and I'm like, he didn't get touched for the first 5 yards.
Yeah. That's true.
There are a lot of other backs that had to work a lot harder for their yards.
Well, yeah. I mean, because, Larry Allen takes care of 3 guys every play for you.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
of course he has a great average. He didn't get touched.
Yeah, right. And then
he went to Arizona and found reality.
And he was also 38 at that point, or 36, whatever he was.
Yeah.
Which was impressive enough to be playing in the NFL as a running back at that age. And then, but the other
found reality too. He's like, who are these guys in front of me now?
Wait a minute. But to your point, though, too, the other thing about Emmitt Smith that he benefited from, I mean, you aren't going to put 8, 9 guys in the box against that team.
No.
Not if you wanted to win. There's no way you could.
Absolutely not. Way too many weapons.
Right.
Other weapons.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, all right. So I think that's a good list. So let me put these in order. Number 1 is going to be Eric Dickerson. I think number 2 for me is going to be Frank Gore. Because
I had both on my list.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got him. Number 3, I'm going to go with Curtis Martin. Number 4, I'm going to go with this is tough. I'm going to go with I like your pick of Larry Centers. He was pretty good. I liked him. And, one other guy we didn't mention that I just thought of now is I think someone like we talked about Franco Harris, who of course he just died, but I think someone like John Riggins is another guy that really doesn't get a lot of conversation. And
also on my list.
What an ox.
Yeah. And did it for so many.
He was such a beast. John Riggins and Larry Zonka, those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Zonka was the man. I mean, if there is a more footballish name than Larry Zonka, this side of
he's on one of those outdoor channels doing hunting and fishing shows.
Of course he is. Look at him. His name's Larry Zonka. Of course he hunts and fishes. He probably makes moonshine too.
And one of his teammates was the other guy on my list.
Kick or Morris?
Oh, Kick. You hear Morris's big mouth every year. The late Jim Kick, you never heard a word from him after he played.
Yeah.
And he was not as flashy as Morris, but when they needed a few yards, and Zonka was a decoy, it was Kick.
Those three guys, what a backcourt.
I know.
Backcourt.
I know.
Oof. Did he guard all those guys? No. Good luck.
Like Kick used to say, they shared that role. And he said, me and Mercury led the league in rushing every year.
Yep. We got Big Larry over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, beast. Yeah, Larry.
Jim Kick, once he was done with football, he was done with the spotlight.
Yeah,
he wanted nothing to do with it.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, so I think that's a good list.
Yeah.
Pretty good 5. Larry Zonka. I like saying that name. That's a good name to say. Rolls off the tongue. Big Zonka.
Just makes me ask that question. What would Coach Don Shula do?
What would Shula do?
Oh yeah.
That's good.
He'd run.
Yep, absolutely.
That's why Bob Greasy won a title game going 6 for 7 passing.
Didn't need to do anything. Just along for the ride. Front row seat.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got a lot to get to. We got some NBA and NHL stuff to get to. And I also want to talk Reggie Bush. Shots fired.
I haven't heard this, so I'll be interested to see what this is. But I have some NBA stuff. And,
yeah, we got a lot to get to. Of all
teams yesterday, Denver showed me something.
Yes, they did. Denver was great yesterday, and we'll talk about it. But right now, take a break, come back. Reggie Bush comes out swinging. We're talking about that next. The Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All righty, we're back. And so Reggie Bush comes out yelling at outgoing NCAA President Mark Emmert. Don't blame him. Mark Emmert was a piece of work. I was never a fan of his.
Bush, he's a piece of something.
He's a piece of something. I can't say that word on air. Reggie Bush put outgoing NCAA President Mark Emmert on blast Tuesday in a series of tweets that revolve around him still not getting his Heisman Trophy back. So, a little sour grapes, perhaps. Bush, who won the award in 2005 at USC, had it taken away from him 5 years later when the NCAA determined he had accepted improper benefits. And basically Bush's argument is now with NIL, that shouldn't matter anymore. And while I have no love for Mark Emmert, I think Reggie Bush is completely wrong here. I think, first of all, it's sour grapes. It sounds petty, but more than that, and more to my critique here is, I always say this, you cannot police yesterday with today's laws. The laws at the time were what they were, and the
I
rules
agree
weren't what they
with
were.
that. I agree with that, but I never thought he should have had his Heisman.
Well, that's a
trophy
different
anymore.
conversation, but the basis for
And
which
yeah, he should have it back.
the
It's ridiculous.
the basis for which he had it removed, that he's now arguing, well, that's not the case anymore, so I should get it back. That argument doesn't hold water to me, because at the time that was the rule, and there was precedent for this, whether it be removing a trophy, vacating wins, changing records. Like, the NCAA has done this plenty of times in the past for similar circumstances.
I agree, but if you're going to take one player's away, I want every single player that's won it investigated.
Well,
because I guarantee you Reggie Bush didn't do anything that most of the other ones did.
No, yeah, I'm sure you're right about that, but ultimately,
and I have no love for the NCAA.
Oh, I don't either, but I don't think Bush's argument is correct. I ultimately think that, look, ultimately not everyone that commits a infraction gets caught, whether that's in NCAA football, in traffic, or at their job when they, say I made 50 calls when really I made 40 and I counted 10 of them twice. Like, everyone does stuff like that. And, you don't always get caught. By the letter of the law, if you were to get caught, these are the potential punishments. And, they're not going to investigate every single person, because it just doesn't, you can't. So, I mean, he got caught, and that's that. I hear what he's saying, but you didn't play in 2021. You played in 2005. You were the most exciting college football player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The only time in my life I cared about college football were those couple of years, from like the end of the Miami Hurricane run through the end of those USC teams. And I hate the NCAA. And I think
those USC teams are what attracted me to it.
Yeah.
And the running backs, I mean, from Mike Garrett to OJ to Davis, I mean, Sam Cunningham, they had one after the other.
Yeah.
And I know I'm leaving names off the list.
Well, Bush's own teammate, Liddell White, they were like thunder and lightning together.
Yeah.
I mean, they were great.
But I'm sorry, he accomplished that on the field.
Yeah.
Someone gave him a few bucks. I was always nonplussed by any of that, because, I mean, there were rules about what jobs these players could take because they needed them on the field for so long. They were treated like employees, and no, it's
right. No, no, look,
he
totally
earned that trophy.
Yes.
The idiot that took it from him didn't.
Right. No, and I totally get that argument. I really do.
But I get your side of it too. Bush can't do this by what's the rule of law now.
Yeah, if your argument is it was stupid from the beginning, everyone was doing it, we're treated like employees even though we can't work. If he made the argument you just made, 1,000%.
Yeah.
But the argument of, well, now it's okay, so it should be retroactively applied to me, I don't buy that argument. I'm sorry. Doesn't work.
I remember Al McGuire at Marquette, who was smart enough not to get caught, but he goes, these kids can't even eat.
Mm-hmm.
These kids can't even go with their classmates and get a slice of pizza. So he was always slipping them a few bucks.
Right.
And it's just the fact that, we have so many hours of practice, they can't get a little on-campus job. And it wasn't fair.
Right. Yeah.
And basically the NCAA did nothing but make money off of them.
Yep.
And I'm glad things are changing.
Oh, completely agree. That's a whole different conversation, and I couldn't agree with you more.
I wish Bush would have taken that approach.
Yes.
And I'd have been completely behind him.
100%. We're on the same page there, without a doubt. All right, so there's the Reggie Bush situation. Let's take a look at the NBA. You mentioned the Nuggets before the break. We talked about the Knicks top of the hour. Knicks on an 8-game winning streak. They got was it Toronto tonight, is it? Knicks have? Is it Toronto?
Yeah.
Yep. So
before we get into the Nuggets, let's talk about Toronto.
Okay.
I sent you something that Joel Embiid said.
Yes.
And he won't talk about it more. And while I understand why he said it, I don't particularly agree with him. I don't think the team does not want to win. I think that team is so fragile that if your three wings, Siakam, Anunoby, and Barnes, aren't playing well, they have no chance of going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's team construction more than the team itself. That's what I disagree with about Joel Embiid. But the fact that Joel Embiid came out and said it, I respect, because he's not one to hold his tongue.
He will say what's on his mind, and we have too few people like that in the world in general, but especially pro sports.
Yes.
There's like nobody. I mean, for God's sakes, Charles Barkley has made a 3-decade almost long career now from just having the reputation of speaking his mind.
And he does.
Like, I think Joel Embiid, I know this is like probably a decade or more out in the future, but I think Joel Embiid would make a marvelous Charles Barkley 2.0. He's funny. He
Barkley's
absolutely
going to want to be gone by then.
What's that?
Barkley will be gone.
Oh,
by then.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think Joel Embiid would actually fit that mold of all the people that have come through the
Yes.
NBA since Barkley. I would say Embiid is the one who most closely resembles Barkley in terms of just unadulterated, purely, this is what's on my mind, this is what I think, and that's that. And I
know
love
you
it.
don't. I know you don't like him, but that's the reason that TNT already contracted Draymond Green for the future.
Yeah, well,
because they know
he'll say whatever. See, I think he goes a step further, which is what I don't like. I think Barkley and Embiid say what's on their mind. I think Green goes a step further and says the version of what's on his mind that they think will get the most attention. I think JJ Redick does the same thing. I think
I don't compare the two. I think Redick has far less credibility.
Oh, I don't. I think they both have zero credibility. Those two and Patrick Beverley, I don't want to hear anything from any of them. But like,
I'm with you on Beverley and Redick.
Green is a prisoner. Green has no historical perspective. If you asked him who was a better player, Jordan Poole or Larry Bird, he would say Jordan Poole.
Green was in for part of the playoffs last year when they weren't playing, and I thought he was quite interesting.
I don't trust him to be fair in his analysis of current versus former players. I think he's a total.
But neither is any of the people on that desk now, except
probably
Kenny Smith.
No, they're the opposite. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
No, they are. And I don't like that either. Now, Barkley, there's something likable about him that Green doesn't have for me. Barkley to me is funny. But you're right. He doesn't respect current players, and the current players don't respect, former players. And I've talked about that plenty of times. It's a problem.
Right.
It is. And I don't like either direction.
I've heard Green on LeBron's podcast, and he has some very interesting things to say. And I want to see him in this kind of setting to see if he brings that same thing he does when he's sitting with, LeBron and everyone else on the podcast.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't much care to hear what he has to say ever, but that's just me.
Give him a chance before you.
He's too much of a ball buster for me. Steven Adams would agree.
I knew there was something about him I liked.
That's right. All right, let's take a look at the Nuggets. You mentioned that a couple of times. They really played great last night.
They took a team, and that's without Porter.
Yep. Jokic only had 13 points?
Jokic is day to day.
Well, he played. He had a triple-double, but he only had 13 points.
Oh, yeah, but he wasn't 100%,
no.
But he played.
Yep.
Some of the passes he made,
he's a magician.
They were zipping that ball around, and I'm like, this is the one way you can beat a very young, very athletic Very talented Memphis team. They passed them to death.
They did.
And they passed them in the standings, too, with the win.
Yep. They're top in the West now. And you know what's interesting? When I was doing my game breakdown for this one, I predicted that Memphis would win on the back of Morant, who is always up for these type of games. I predicted Morant would have a huge game, and he did. He had 35 and 10.
Oh, he did.
And he was, 13 of 16 from the field.
He did.
So I was half right. I mean,
But they victimized him and that whole team yesterday.
Well, they were just, Nuggets, like you said, their passing game was,
they
was
were zipping
incredible.
1, 2, 3 pass.
Yep.
One went into, on the right block, went into Jokic, and he threw a bounce pass. He nutmegged it, too, through a Memphis player to someone for an easy layup.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was just like they just looked at that team and said, "We're not competing with them athletically.
Yep.
But we're gonna fundamentally crush them."
Yep.
And they did. They passed them to death.
No, they did. There was a great exhibition. They reminded me in a single game setting of the 1977 NBA Finals with Portland and with Philadelphia.
Yes.
Philadelphia,
Yes.
far more athletic team. Portland with Bill Walton, funny enough, as their main passer. In the case here, of course, Nuggets, their center, their main passer too. Jokic just passed them to death. And that's exactly what we saw last night.
And all the experts for that picked the Sixers to win that thing. And their biggest mismatch was Julius Erving and Bob Gross.
Mm-hmm.
A 6'6" forward who was not the most athletic guy in the world.
Right.
But again, he was part of that team. Him, Walton, Twardzik, and Lionel Hollins would just pass the ball.
Yep.
And that team made very few turnovers. And if you needed an enforcer, you had Maurice Lucas, who no one in the league would fight.
Yes.
For good reason. He was a black belt. He knocked someone out in the ABA, and it was intense.
Oh, man.
See a guy laying there for 5 minutes.
Speaking of the ABA, they got their first checks from the NBA. I saw that too.
We lost way too many people waiting for that atrocity.
Talk about too little, too late. Yeah.
Yes.
But
and I don't have any vendetta against the NBA, but on this I argued for years that they were wrong.
Well, a lot.
And it was something agreed to, and yeah, we lost. There's very few left, and we lost way too many before it happened. But yeah, kudos to the Nuggets last night.
Yeah, no, they played great.
And talk about this win streak. Isn't it interesting how it coincides with RJ Barrett's personal streak? I mean, when the Knicks weren't playing well, he averaged about 17 and a half, shooting around 40%.
Yep.
Look in the last in this 8-game winning streak, how he's put it together,
23 a game or something like that.
Yeah, 22 and change a game. Improved his 2-point and 3-point shooting. I mean, they're calling him Mr. December. It's
well, he's playing off the ball, which is what I've always said is he to me is a current version of like Richard Hamilton. He's an off-ball guy. You don't want him dribbling too much. You want him getting the ball and making one quick move, whether it's around a screen or popping out to the corner, a step back, maybe one crossover and drive to the rim. Like he's got a little bit more ball handling than Hamilton did, but like he's very much a new age version of that. And for too long, he was being forced to be like the primary ball handler, and that's not his game. Now he's not that with Brunson there, and it makes a big difference.
And over the last 7 games before last night's, he had like a 102.1 defensive rating, that's one of the better defenders in the NBA.
Yes. That is the effect of Thibodeau right there. That's Thibodeau's coaching.
Yes. And he doesn't get enough credit for that. In an ideal world, I'd like to see Barrett play the 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
And get a real small forward, and you can move out Rose.
Right.
Who's the shooter again? Whose name
Grimes,
I don't remember. No.
Fournier.
Yep. Yeah. All these guys, because they're talking to the Raptors about OG Anunoby.
Hmm.
Why the Raptors would do that, I have no idea.
Well, I can tell you because the Knicks went up to him and said, "You will trade us Obi-Wan Kenobi. We will trade you Obi-Wan Kenobi."
And man, would he fit right in with Tibbs' defensive philosophy?
Yep.
Out of the three, out of Siakam, Barnes, and Anunoby, OG's the best defender.
Yes, he is.
And in fact, he might be the best all-around player, although Siakam's become an incredible passer.
And Siakam is a big guy. I mean, he reminds me of like Bam Adebayo. Like he's like 6'10-ish, 6'9", crazy long
about
arms.
6'8". They give Bam credit for being 6'10". If he's 6'10", so am I.
I think he's a little closer.
I look at Bam Adebayo on the court, and if he's 6'8",
Yeah.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, Siakam's a beast.
Yeah, he is.
And Barnes is one of the smoothest players.
Yeah, he's just he reminds me of one of those guys who just always plays at his own pace, never in a hurry. He's very much got that like Chauncey Billups type of game, very under control. It's just very smooth, like you said.
But if I'm the Raptors, the only way I trade Anunoby is if I get a center back.
Yep. I totally agree.
Because that's what they're missing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I don't think it's a will to win. I think it's personnel.
What do we got going on in the NHL?
Something interesting happened. We weren't here yesterday, but something interesting happened 2 days ago in the Colorado Avalanche New York Islanders game, which the Avalanche won 1-0 on a shootout. The most interesting thing that happened in a game, and I have never seen in all my years of watching a sport a player do this. Cale Makar was skating behind the net, his own net for the Avalanche, and he blew a tire. He went down.
Hmm.
The refs see a defender near him, and of course Makar's a superstar, so he couldn't have fallen on his own. The ref puts up his hand to call a penalty, and Makar waved him off. He said, "No, the guy didn't do anything. I blew a tire. I just went down."
Right. Just went down.
He apologized to his teammates after that. He said it's something he probably shouldn't have done. Should have taken the penalty, but man, there's some points for honesty there.
No, it's true.
That's really interesting.
No, it is very interesting. It's funny how that happens. When I watch a guy just like fall like that, it's always so weird. It's like, man, how's that? But it happens.
I've seen players and lose a blade,
A skating blade,
a skate blade, and they're useless when they're on one blade.
How does that even happen?
I don't know, but I've seen it 3 or 4 times this year. 2 games involving locals last night. Jack Hughes scored another incredible highlight reel goal, but the Devils lost to Carolina, who were my pick for first in the East, and they're playing like it. They lost 4-1, and now all the talk again is, why is New Jersey slumping? All of a sudden, they're having a hard time winning games or putting any back-to-back wins together. Well, they're a very young team. And I said that at the beginning of the year. No, you don't fire Lindy Ruff. It's a very young team who's going to go as far as their goaltending can take them.
Yep.
And it's hard when you have a guy who has been a backup goalie and played in some games and done really well if you ask him to do it for 60. And they're going to have these. They're a young, streaky team, and they're going to have that. There's nothing wrong with their coaching. There's nothing wrong with the team. It's just a very young team that's finding its way. People have to be patient. What fans aren't, patient.
Yep.
And Pittsburgh beat the Rangers last night 3-2 in what was a very, very chippy game. Man, there were gloves down all over the place. And of course, I'm there for it.
My buddy Mike was at the Flyers game yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. How'd they do? Do you know?
They handle Columbus 5-3.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Philly's another team. They're going to be inconsistent. They have a coach that is hard to play for in John Tortorella. He drives people. He's like Tibbs. He drives people to the point of exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets results.
Yep.
And they're a very up and down team and a very streaky team, but they will be better. But again, you have to give them time.
There you go. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up with some news you can use as we close out the last 10 minutes or so of the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch. Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
All righty, it's time for news you can use. What do we got today, Rich?
Something interesting out of Atlanta. The Hawks made a major change to their front office. Travis Schenck, who was the president of basketball operations, is going to be transitioning into more of a senior advisory role. He's taking a little step back.
Okay.
And Landry Fields is going to take his place. Fields is the GM. And he's paid his dues. I mean, his playing days ended in 2015. He joined the Spurs as a scout in 2016. And then the next year, he was the GM of their G League affiliate in Austin. And then the Hawks brought him on board in 2020. And Schenk's been there even before that, but he launched the rebuild and went through some losing seasons before, him bringing in.
So was
Fields.
Shanks the guy that traded like the Corver and the Al Horford and that whole crew?
Yes.
I would say he probably hasn't done the best job. That I think that team was better than what the potential for this roster is, to be honest. I know Trae Young is like the young shiny star or whatever, but that team was like really good.
And he drafted John Collins, Herter, Cam Reddish. He's, acquired DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, he hasn't done a terrible job, but I feel like that build
It was an old team that was going nowhere, though.
Yeah, I guess they maxed out. This team kind of has too. I think John Collins is a weird player, man. We always talk about Julius Randle in that capacity. I can't figure out what to do with John Collins. Like, I would really just want him as like a sixth man type on a really good team, but he's going to be paid far too much for that.
Right. And he is.
And he is. That's just that's a player I wouldn't touch. because of what I would have to pay him to get him, I wouldn't have him. He's tricky. That's a tricky player. Herter I liked, but he's in Sacramento now.
Right.
He's a good player. I like Kevin Herter.
No, I do too. I didn't understand that trade.
So, all right, what else we got?
Okay, Matt Stafford shut down the retirement rumors. He went on his wife's podcast to do this. I don't know anything about his wife's podcast or what it's all about. But he said he's not retiring. He's 34 years old. He said his playing career is not over, despite what a lot of people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
But her podcast is the morning after. I mean, why would he go anywhere?
No.
One, it's not the Brady thing where his wife's saying, hey, it's time for you to get out.
No, she's getting him, hey, come on my podcast and tell everyone you're still playing. Tired of hearing about it. It's the opposite.
He's due $27.5 million from the Rams in 2023.
That's a good reason to come back.
There's a $26 million option bonus in March that basically triggers another $31 million fully guaranteed in 2024.
Yeah, I think he's got some reasons to come back.
Matt Stafford's not going anywhere.
No way. Absolutely not. Bit of news I had, the Mavericks are getting set to unveil a statue of Dirk Nowitzki pretty soon.
It's deserved, and I'm glad they didn't wait forever.
Yeah, they didn't wait forever. He's still just a few years out of his playing days, right?
Good. He deserves.
Oh, yeah.
He was that franchise.
Oh, yeah. And then, it made me think, because I guess his last year was Luka's rookie year. And
yes,
it just reminds me of the importance of timing, which is just totally chance. If Luka was 7-8 years older or Dirk was 7-8 years younger and they were on the same team, talk about a dynamic duo that would have been utterly unstoppable.
And did he ever have that second teammate? No. He never had a Robin like
I
LeBron
guess the closest
did.
he had was in his early years when it was him, Finley, and Nash. But they were all like pretty young, especially him and Nash at the time.
Yeah,
he's a little older
Nash
than both
wasn't
of them.
there that long.
No, they were there a couple of years.
Yeah, but he never really had a second star.
Not really. I mean, no, he really didn't. Josh Howard for a little while was kind of close. But that's
LeBron had Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, no. It's nowhere close. I mean, it's like I'm just naming like the best players he played with.
And I saw someone on socials, and I didn't get into it because it's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
And say, well, he only won one title. Well, he never had a roster to win a second title.
Yep.
And I give him credit for being relevant for 19 of his 20 years.
Yep.
And he deserves the retirement thing, too. He didn't take it to as grand of a scale as Dwayne Wade.
Right.
But it also wasn't in his personality.
No. Yeah, but he was awesome.
Yeah, he was.
He was absolutely awesome. All right. We got time for maybe two more. What else we got?
Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers blasts a horse bleep report about hand signals.
Oh.
There was a story in The Athletic that suggested that Rodgers confused teammates over his use of numerous hand signals during the games. And he went on the Pat McAfee show. And he said, let me tell you, this direct quote, I was made aware of the article. It is by far the dumbest nothing burger article that I've read the entire season. I won't say in my career because last year there was some of the dumbest stuff you could possibly imagine. He said, I don't know if you can ever top the COVID toe.
Oh, I remember that one.
Because he wasn't vaccinated,
right.
They said COVID caused his toe injury.
Yes, COVID caused my toe injury, yes.
He had a fractured toe. Yes. Come on.
My respiratory infection broke my toe. Said no smart person ever.
So I thought that was kind of interesting and funny.
Aaron Rodgers is his own man.
He is, and I love him for it.
Yeah, he's his own man. He really is. Yeah, he's awesome. He's one of those other guys that's pretty outspoken.
One more.
Yeah, let's do it.
Bulls have had, there's a report out floating around, the Bulls have had, quote, multiple meetings to fix the on-court issues between top stars. Now, I also heard, and I don't know if I sent this to you or not, that Levine has his issues with the Bulls too. Say, well, can't trade you.
See you later.
Well, we're not winning with you.
That's right. We can lose without you.
And you're our best player. But apparently he and DeRozan
had a one-on-one.
He feels they're a poor mix. And I'm like, well, you didn't feel that way last year.
Yeah.
So what happened?
DeRozan played out of his mind for most of last year. He had the best year of his career.
And
I think that might have been fool's gold a little bit.
They've had one-on-one face-to-face sit-downs. I confirmed this with Shams. They're not at odds personally, but Levine just does not see eye to eye, as he says, with the organization. And I'm like, wow. How does that 5-year, $215 million contract feel now?
I'm thinking he won't take the Kevin Love approach and just play it out.
No. And you know something? If your quote best player, and I've always hated that term about him because he makes no one around him better.
Nope.
You don't have to dismantle the team to move him.
Yeah, no.
And it might be to your benefit.
It might make you better. He's a lesser version of what Carmelo was in his prime. Much lesser version.
I think a backcourt of Lonzo when he gets back and DeRozan will be just fine.
I agree. I don't think they need Zach LaVine. You move him, you get a couple of good pieces, some draft capital. Like, you know, if you could
draft capital and a player.
Right, yeah. If you could get like a starter quality front court guy, like a 12-8, 15-9 type of guy, and some draft capital for Zach LaVine, I would do that.
And you still got Vucevic, DeRozan, and Lonzo Ball.
Right. You get me like a power forward or another 3 that averages somewhere in the 12 to 15 range. And
get a nice 3 and D.
Yeah, a draft pick or 2.
Would you take Jay Crowder in draft capital?
That to be a good amount of draft capital. That maybe not, because the Phoenix draft capital is likely to not have a lot of value unless that was coming from another team. That's
what you'd have to look at.
Yeah. But something like that I think is reasonable. Like if another example, if a team like I don't know, Indiana came calling with like Buddy Hield and a draft pick, I would do that.
I would have no problem with it.
You know what I mean? So there you go. All right. Well, that does it.
There was a report.
Yeah.
I hate to do this, and I know we're running over, but there was a report that Bulls players had a blow up at Levine during halftime of Sunday's game where they got blown out by the Timberwolves.
So the team is mad at him.
I don't think he's a popular guy right now.
It doesn't sound like it. You know, he's lucky he doesn't play for Bill Belichick, because he would trade him to Detroit right now for a bucket of balls just to spite him.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah. Belichick loves doing that kind of stuff.
He'd be like, where's the worst place I could send you? I know. I'll send you to Cleveland for nothing, just to insult you. Even I couldn't.
Cleveland wouldn't be so bad right now.
No, when he traded Chandler Jones there a few years ago, he traded him for like a 5th-round pick. He was like the best pass rusher in the NFL at the time, or one of them. And he traded him to Cleveland, who was like fresh off a 0-win season, just to be mean.
Zach LaVine, oh man, if he went to Cleveland, I don't think it would make them any better.
No, it probably wouldn't. And depending what you gave up, it'd probably make them worse.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, today was a explosive show, to say the least.
I thought today was great.
I think so. As long as the Mets keep signing big name free agents, we'll keep having these shows, right? So we'll be back tomorrow, 10 to noon. Titillating Sports with Rick Tittle is next. It's to get here on The Cave.